Good morning. Here we are for another instalment of the Dornbush Weekly. Still haven't got a name, still waiting. So if someone can come up with a name, we're not the creatives, we're just here for the numbers. So if someone's got a name, that'd be great. Andrew, thank you. Andrew, Dan the Waffler.
Hello.
Andrew, who talks a lot too.
Double waffler,
thank you. And look, a bit going on this week. Dan, probably one area of expertise. We all sort of have different interests in the business. Mine's emerging leaders. Dan is around ag, and this week around that free trade agreement with China. Any sort of thoughts on that?
It's really interesting, Andrew. We haven't seen what they keep saying is we haven't really seen the detail yet, but from what they're talking about now, it's going to be really positive for the food side of things, especially milk exports, or I should say dairy exports, the meat exports. And in that regard, like there's a couple of companies that are really positioning themselves well now, haven't they, with AACo building that meatworks up near Darwin. And I just wonder whether we'll see a bit more consolidation in that dairy sector now that Warrnambool cheese is gone.
So Bega, do you think Bega as an example is a target?
Bega could well be a target. You know, Fonterra already own about 8% of Bega, so it wouldn't be hard for them to step into the breach and get some more.
And you and I have spoken before about companies like Bellamy as an example, you know, that do powdered milk into China.
Yes, and baby formula. In that regard, well, Gina wants to buy land, etc., near Mergen, Kingaroy area, doesn't she? And have a go there. So that will be interesting.
And there's another one that you've been looking at, more speculative, APH?
APH, Australian Dairy. It's quite, one of the stats they put out, only about 2.5% of Australian dairies are owned by corporates. And so they're stepping into that space. They've bought a few farms in Warrnambool in Victoria and looking to sell that milk into Asia as well. So it's quite interesting.
And even just from a local point of view, not talking shares for a moment, you know, the opening of Wagner's Airport this week is huge for the agricultural sector in this region. You know, we can, within 12 hours, have basically food on Asia's doorstep. So
it's just amazing.
That's really exciting stuff. You were saying to me just before about the Reserve Bank came out with some news earlier in the week?
Yeah, the Governor had his did a speech yesterday, and he's really saying that we're looking at low rates now for an extended period. So I think, Andrew, that's really going to play into the bank's yield, isn't it? You know, low rates equals hopefully low default rates, which, you know, is a good thing for our banks. Low defaults equals more dividends, etc. So.
And I think that's a really good point. If you flip that on its head, that, you know, if and when interest rates do rise, and I acknowledge what you're saying about the RBA, it's very unlikely that interest rates are going to rise anytime soon, because, you know, people have got in their mindset interest rates aren't 7%, they're 5%. You know, when you and I are paying off our homes, it was 7%, it's now 5%. That extra 2%, which will inevitably come back on, that's going to place a lot of mortgage stress on people.
A lot of mortgage stress.
And as a consequence, you're right, the ability for banks to keep paying those great dividends at that time will diminish. So at the moment, happy days.
Happy days.
But just keep in mind that if and when interest rates are even threatening to rise, that's going to put pressure on banks.
And it'll put pressure on the likes of Genworth as well, the mortgage insurance companies, because that's where they'll start to see a few hiccups as well.
Absolutely. And it wouldn't be a Dornbush Weekly without talking about Medibank.
Oh, I gotta love Medibank. It's all over just about.
Medibank, our favourite. Light is at the end of the tunnel. It's not a train. So
we find out on Friday?
So, yeah, well, the institutions are bidding at the moment, and the government has changed the range for them from $1.55 to $2, which is our range, the mums and dads range. The institutions' new range is $2 to $2.30.
Wow.
So that's a real positive for mums and dads, because the most you'll pay is $2, but the institutions could be paying anywhere between sort of $2.15, $2.20, up to $2.30. I think $2.15, $2.20.
So you'd have to say mums and dads will be paying $2, wouldn't you?
Mums and dads, without a doubt, will be paying $2 on the float. But, of course, they list next Tuesday. So if you're interested, you know, you didn't get a heap of shares, I would urge you to come and have a chat to one of us, because if you want exposure, now's the time to be buying them, because my opinion, I think you agree, Dan, is that you'll have all the mums and dads who think they're pretty special, selling a few off, making a quick profit. That supply will diminish pretty quickly, but the institutions who need the shares to be index weight, they'll be in there madly buying to try and get themselves index weights.
So where's it going to be? It's going to be like company number 56 or 58, Andrew, isn't it? So most institutions are going to have to hold it. So.
Correct. So certainly Medibank, privately, we'd be pleased to see the back end of it.
Yes,
but in the context of clients and getting exposure to an insurance company, because, you know, it's being touted as a healthcare company. It's not really a healthcare company. It's an insurance company.
In the healthcare sector.
But it has exposure to healthcare. It's really important that you come and have a chat to us. Otherwise, I think that's pretty much it for this week.
Yes.
Dan,
have a good week.
See you later.